Assalamu alaikum, hello and welcome to my show, Connecting with Saima Parwaz. I hope all of you are doing great and waiting to see my today's guests. We are blessed to have so many great things in life, but there are many people who don't even have food to eat, shelter and clothing. My today's topic is global poverty. We will also discuss poverty in Canada. My guest speakers are Yameena and Ibrahim. Welcome to my show, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
How are you guys today?
Good, thank you.
Excited to chat with you.
Yeah. And so what are we going to discuss today?
Essentially, there's so much power imbalance and socioeconomic imbalance globally and also in Canada, and hopefully we can have a fruitful discussion about how to close the gap between the rich and the poor.
Yes. And what do you think? What is poverty?
Well, poverty can come in different types and different, but definitely it's the line of poverty, which is where we should start with. Under the line of poverty, where you could only look for your survivals, and above it, you might look for accumulation of wealth of some types. In Canada, I think we are more of concern on. We are lucky that we are securing that at least. In theory, the underlying poverty lines for the basic survival, but we are more in the context of accumulation of wealth for family and for people who come as a new migrants or dreamers to become a Canadian citizen in the context of Canada in general.
We're gonna discuss this topic in details. Ibrahim is first time in my show, so let's talk about him. Ibrahim, you wanna introduce about yourself to my audience?
Thank you. I'm Ibrahim Heiblo. I'm practicing in real estate and in civil litigations. I came here in Canada quite maybe 9 years ago. I became a paralegal immediately. I practiced on the professional level and then end up working in the banking industries. And now as a licensed lawyer, just practice on my own, sole practitioner.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Global poverty is a very detailed topic, but this must be addressed, and we're gonna talk about it not really in detail, but some of the aspects we're gonna discuss with my guest speakers today. And let's start, guys. So first of all, guys, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too.
So how's the 2024 treating you so far? Any goals?
2024 for me has been absolutely insane. I was doing a lot of advocacy around Palestine and Gaza, specifically in helping people, Gazans who have extended family members in Canada come here. And I was really fortunate to have a lot of opportunities to talk about this in the media. And then we'd also started a petition which gained thousands of followers. And through that, we were essentially able to change the policy on this. The immigration minister essentially took the petition and made it into policy. And then when he made it into policy, we realized there were still gaps. So we advocated even further in the media. Plus, we had an opportunity to speak with the minister directly about the issues. And again, he made those changes. Of course, it's still something that we're working on. But for me, that has been probably the most meaningful moment so far of 2024 is taking the knowledge that I have about immigration law, helping a population that is so vulnerable, assisting them and seeing how quickly the government has responded to that has been amazing.
Yeah, that's great. I'm so happy for you, Yameena.
I'm happy for the people that we're able to help.
Yeah, that's great.
For me, it was a different level of advocacy. Also, we joined some groups of advocacy in terms of this war, and that, of course, affects everybody. But the 2024 has been so far so good, but just getting busy in terms of work and getting to the files that we left off on 2023, December.
And I didn't even feel like 2 weeks almost gone for 2024, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And I have so many challenges I have to face in this year, like everyone. Like, Yeah, let's see how things go, right?
Yes.
Time flies when you're working a lot.
That's for sure.
All right. So, what do you guys think? Being poor is a personal choice. Some people say, for some people who are in their comfort zone, they don't want to come out of it, right? So whatever they are, they don't want to grow. They just, wherever they are living, wherever they are working, they just in the same state for many, many, many years, right? And what are you guys?
I
say
think I
about
would think, first of all, differentiate between the context of Canada, or the social context of Canada, and the rest of the world, and depends where you are in the world. In Canada, it might be you have to build up the self-drive in order to accumulate any type of wealth and go beyond the poverty lines, because at least the necessity or the infrastructure to succeed in Canada is quite good. However, in the rest of the world, it might be circumstances and that you cannot really, if you're looking for your basic survival, you might not be given the choices to dream bigger than just the day-to-day survival needs.
yeah.
I definitely think poverty, to a great extent, is a product of social conditions, and if we're raised in a context where there's no opportunity to learn and get ourselves educated and reach for higher goals and higher opportunities, it's not available to us. And I think also a lot of people are kind of stuck in this poverty trap, and even to a much smaller level. An example that my husband and I are dealing with right now is that we really want to buy a new car. We have this old car, it's like over 10 years old, and every month we're putting hundreds of dollars. I think he told me last night it was $700 every month that we put into repairs into this car. And what we would really love is to buy a new car, which would cost us significantly less than $700 a month, but we don't have that money up front, that $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, whatever it is, to invest into a new vehicle. So instead of going and buying a more expensive car, which would be cheaper in the long run, we just keep pouring money into this old car. And obviously, we're relatively privileged and we're dealing with this on a smaller scale. But I think there's a lot of people that are stuck in this trap of, well, it'd be cheaper to buy a house rather than rent. And you would accumulate wealth if you owned your own house versus paying rent. But you need to have that money readily available to you. So I think unfortunately a lot of it is conditions.
Yeah, it's conditions, right? So it's something like many of us, we are stuck in our situations.
Yeah, and I totally agree with it's a condition, but depends on the circumstances of the condition itself. It's the motivation. When motivation comes in, yes, she might be, for example, we're struggling to get a car, but also if you have the motivation to get out of that conditions. It depends also on the circumstances. If you are driven in given the circumstances, especially in the context of Canada, you might be able to get. I remember when I started doing the paralegal study, I couldn't even have the money to take the subway. But I know how severe I was, the condition. I was driven to, and no matter what, I need to do it, I need to do it, I need to do it. I go the whole day long downtown Toronto without coffee the whole day, which I was having a drink of coffee. I love coffee. And I couldn't afford it for that day. But at that thing, I think, from my experience at least, didn't stop me to dream big. Said, listen, maybe there's hope, maybe there's a light in the end of the tunnel, maybe I'll get that car. So that's the motivation, I would think, in the circumstance of Canada, definitely play a major role in changing your circumstances.
And the new generations, right, like my kids, like the new kids, they don't know how to handle money. They don't know importance of money. I guess, because we probably, being a parent, right, we provided them so much, so they don't have importance. Like we know the importance of our generations, right?
Yeah, this is absolutely, I could speak that from my experience. I have an 11 years old girl, and one day she came from home with an attitude, said, money is nothing to me. And the following day I said, yeah, I heard her telling her brother that they are twins. I said, money is nothing. And next day I took her to the McDonald's and put her in front of McDonald's. I said, listen, go bring us 3 meals. And she was shocked, and you could see the shock on her face. I said, yesterday you were lecturing us money is nothing, now we need 3 meals. So I taught her, like, if you're not able to afford that 3 meals and you're telling us money is nothing, then since then she learned the lesson, like, it's not necessarily driven towards money, but at least you have a security of some sort for your own dignity and for your own life. And since then she learned the lesson.
But the sad thing is, they don't teach about money in the schools, right? They should bring some courses, even from very beginning, right? They
Money literacy should be a big subject to the schools.
That is one of the solution, I guess.
Yeah, recently I got one of these mortgage specialists who told me he has 10 years old kids. He said, my kids did not tell me what a mortgage is at the age of 15 and explain this, break it down to every single aspect of his life. He's not going to get his birthday party a gift. And I said, why? He said, because it's how essential that knowledge to any kids in this age to see life differently. So he already tries to teach him the security in that sense, where relate to the day-to-day life. Like, listen, we have a house, we are blessed to have a house. Doesn't mean that you might get it if you didn't know what the knowledge, literacy that comes with the having ownership of a house. So that opened my eyes completely to what I could teach my kids too, because they are not getting this in school. Whereas this gentleman, he got it out of his own experience. He said, at the age of 15, he must tell me every single thing about how the car money comes from, how the car, not because I am greedy, but because that teaches him the dynamic of life in general, in terms of his financial security.
The parents are not there, right? So they should survive in bad circumstances.
Yes.
Right? We should teach our kids.
Yeah, I agree totally with that.
I know with me, the first time I learned how important money was when I had to go out and earn money. And all of a sudden, I think you gain a real appreciation for how important money is when you have to actually go somewhere, put your blood, sweat, and tears, and then you see how much money you have at the end, and then you realize how expensive rent is and how expensive food is. So I think if there's one gift that my parents could have given me at a very early age is encouraging me to get a job. Just any type of part-time job like tutoring or shoveling snow or cleaning lawns, whatever is available, and then seeing how much money I earn and then having the ability to spend that money. I think from a very early age, it would have given me a real appreciation for how hard it is to earn money and to make it.
Almost 700 million people around the world live in extreme poverty. These are some global statistics I have collected, and they subsist on less than $2.5 a day. And Canadian statistics are 1 in 7 or 4.9 million people in Canada live in poverty. The past 20 years, Canadian population has increased by 30%, and national investment in housing has decreased by 46%. So, what measures should be taken over there to decrease these numbers?
I mean, I think a lot of the reason for historical poverty and current poverty is colonialism. Essentially, you had a few countries that went to other countries and robbed them of all their wealth and took it back home with them. And I think that has had far-reaching effects all the way into today, because if you have a country that has been deprived of not only its natural resources but also its knowledge and culture, it's not going to be able to prosper. And I think this has flowed into now what I would call neocolonialism, where instead of having a church or a state that is colonizing other countries, you now have capitalism. So now you have these few countries where we're privileged to wear very nice clothes and have expensive things, but all of these nice clothes and expensive things are made elsewhere by people that are living in substandard conditions and that do not have access to the same labor standards that we have access to. So I think we started this whole cycle hundreds of years ago with colonialism, and I think we have just continued it, except now the new colonizers are corporations.
So yes, definitely there's some aspect of that, but also in the context of Canada, I think one of the driving forces of poverty is the prices, inflation, the prices that have become quite recent in the last maybe 2 years, and this affected the income of people.
Especially during pandemic. Right?
Especially during the afterwards, and I'm not trying to say it's related to the immigration, but I don't think the house prices are going with hand in hand in terms of the immigration flow and the house development. I think the speed of the house development is very slow, given the fact, and also the distribution of the population across Canada. I went, as I was told you, offline, I was telling I drove all the way to Calgary. I found Canada completely empty. And that's alarming. Like you go off 1 hour from the heart of Toronto to an empty land all the way to Calgary. And yet you see the house prices are going quite high to every single income. And this is definitely put certain pressure on every single family and homeowner, even crushing their dreams of ownership. I think these two policy and the government should get involved in the for one, distribution of the population across Canada. For secondly, somehow balance immigration towards certain provinces rather than just accumulated in one province, will put pressure on the overall economy and forces in the province of Ontario in particular. I think we need more people. I do believe that we need more people in Canada. I'm not one of those who advocate too many people, but just because of the Ontario or GTA perspective does not really shape the entire country. Because you think that too many people here is not the fact of Canada at all.
Hi folks, we're going for a break and I'm going to see you shortly. Hi guys, I'm back. How are you? How was your break?
Good, thank you.
So what I'm going to discuss now about the different kind of poverties. What I figured out, there are two main poverties. One is situational and one is generational. So what we are facing in Canada right now is situational, which happened after pandemic, during pandemic and economic crisis, some health crisis. Right?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, and you guys agree, right, Ibrahim?
Yeah, definitely. Well, Canada has experienced some poverty line drop down after the COVID crisis, and I think it's due to few factors, but mainly the house prices, again, and
The rents.
yes,
are so high.
and the rent and inflations in general. I think immigration had driven the house price up, whereas the development did not catch up onto the right time with the speed. So there is a gap between how many people we bring and how many the construction company be able to afford on a monthly and annually basis. And this gap is so, but definitely is situational. I think the government could solve this issue within the next 1 or 2 years in terms of pouring some fund in different area of Canada or across Canada in order to accommodate for more immigrants.
Great. Any opinion? Anything you want to say about it? about Canadian poverty?
I definitely think that we have one of the strongest banking systems in the world, and that's why even relative to our neighbors to the south, the US, whenever there's an economic crisis, we're a lot less impacted by it. I think also it was awesome during COVID how the government was helping folks with CERB and other financial relief efforts. I think it would be nice to see them continuing their efforts in the post-pandemic world. So recognizing that housing and rent are higher than they've ever been, potentially increasing the amount of rent control that we have. But then also, like Ibrahim mentioned, loosening some of the controls that we have on developers and development, and potentially supporting the construction industry more so that we have more homes that are going up.
There is another form of poverty, which is a generation poverty, which we see mostly in different countries, third world countries, which are Somalia, South Sudan, these countries. There are lots of more countries, and how we can help these countries. What I think we should, the rich countries, they should start donating them more and more. They are doing on their best, but and also we should probably make immigration easy for them. And so we can help these countries who are not very blessed. Am I right, guys?
I think that is definitely some of what we should be doing. I think when we think about allocation of funds and how we're allocating funds, women hold up half the sky, but they're not always given that opportunity. So if there's one area that I think we can focus on globally that increases health, that increases wealth, that decreases poverty, is focusing on girls' education. When you have girls that are out of the home, that are working, not only are they more empowered, but you've immediately increased the economic output of your country by double. So I think that's something that's not part of the conversation enough when we talk about poverty. Is if you live in a highly patriarchal society where half of the people are not able to work, your country is going to be less productive than a country where everybody is contributing and working.
Yes, also there is another dynamic to this cultural, generational wealth. It's also cultural in nature. Some even, including even here in Canada, it's a culture between family to family. You inherited the culture of wealth itself. It's an idea, it's a belief system. The way, for example, if you need to change your way of life, some people are workers by nature and they hand this culture with them. So to bring the spirit of developing wealth and going after wealth and become more creative in that sense is also cultural, and education, and even within the school or even within own family. So that's why when you sometimes successful family always inherit some, because of the news, because the way they talk about it, the dinner table and so on. So it's cultural and has a lot to do with this wealth, because it's reflected in their belief system, how they see and how they project themselves on the world and outside of their homes.
Yeah, that's how when we teach our kids, right? We should teach them their brainwashing, right? If they are growing up in a poor family, but if their friends are belong to a good level, their living is good, then they start thinking differently.
They actually did this study where they took children who were living in socioeconomically depressed neighborhoods and they sent them to schools in socioeconomically well-off neighborhoods. And the children, just by going to school in a different neighborhood, their grades got better, and they had over 10 years and 20 years, they actually earned a lot more money, because exactly like Ibrahim is saying, they had this idea of it's possible to be wealthy. And I think too, this is what we see a lot with immigrants. Like I know with my own family, we came to Canada, we didn't have anything, we had to start all over again, but it was never seen as an impossible impediment, because they have all of those knowledge and skills and tools that they brought with them from their home country, even though they had to redo all their credentials. But more importantly, they have that self-esteem. They know where they belong in the world, that they deserve to have nice things and be recognized.
And nearly 22,000 children die each day due to living in poverty. This is very shameful for entire world, we should do something. These children can be leaders, and the all foundations who are working for different things, for different issues in the world, they should probably participate for this issue too. And do you want to say something about it, guys?
I think one of the main issues is that often relief aid and relief organizations are tied to some type of religious mission. And a lot of the religious missions are against birth control and against contraception. So I think if we have more non-denominational organizations that are assisting folks in socioeconomically depressed circumstances have access to contraception, so that we're not bringing all of these children into the world that have no way of having their necessities provided. I think that would be a great first step. I think a great second step would be changing the culture in many countries. In a lot of countries, you're not allowed to talk about contraception. There's religious prohibitions to it. There's cultural prohibitions to it. And getting religious and cultural leaders on board to explain to their congregations why it's important to bring, to build a stronger, fitter society rather than just a society that has more of a population, I think is an important part of the equation, because there's no way, and I say this as somebody who is going to be bringing a child into the world very shortly, there's no way that somebody brings a child into the world thinking that that child's going to die. If that question is on the table, that I will bring a child into the world that could die, or not bring one into the world at all, I think most people would say, why don't we wait until we're in a better position, until we bring a child into the world.
Also, another thing, there's a 10% population in the world who are carrying 90% of wealth in the world, and probably these people, they should do something. They should work. They will work towards these issues. And if you are blessed and with these so much wealth, guys, and you are living in your zone, you are managing your businesses, you guys can do anything. And
Just the only thing that I would like to add is the fact that we might take a bourgeoisie perspective regarding how many children we should bring to the world, but also we cannot forget the fact that in Africa, for example, people have more children because they know for sure many of them they're going to die before the age of majority. This has to do with very associated with the health condition itself in the countries. So people, every single family, they try to bring more children because they believe that they are not going to survive. So the concept of not having more children is actually associated with their health conditions. We have to even tackle the health aspect of life in this country in order to make sure that they are, every child saved. So the family, they take gambles, have more children because we know few of them are going to die before the age of majority. Therefore, we're not going to have any children later on in life. And that's the culture perpetuates in that sense.
Many people think Canada used to be a good country, livable country, and blessed with so many blessings. But I guess right now, not many Canadians over there, they are happy. And they can't afford even their living. They can't afford their kids' education. They can't afford they are just working so hard, and they're not getting the fruit out of it. What do you guys advise in your area of practice, or what do you guys have learned so far? What you guys, how can we make Canada, old Canada, and livable Canada?
I would think, if I may go first, I would think I would always emphasize the distribution of the population across Canada. I think the Canadian population is not even, and 90% of the country, the land is still empty. Therefore, it's so unbelievable. The house prices goes that far up and through the roof, and yet the whole country is empty. I think the distribution of wealth and also the distribution of resources should be across Canada, and people build more attractive city to the younger people, where they could go to, they have everything, infrastructure, and yet, particularly in today's world, where all highly technical driven society, where you could do your work anywhere. If you look at Ontario as an example, for example, the GTA is fully populated, but to go north, it's still empty. So yet 90% of the population concentrated their work here, where also again the percentage of people could do 90% of the work online, it's higher. So that I think needs some kind of government intervention to rebalance these things in order for a new Canadian to be able to afford their house, the enjoyment of their life too, and bring the old concept of Canada back. Because with the house prices are Canada's, many people are immigrating back to their own countries, or choosing the States, for example, as an alternative.
Yeah, they live in Canada, right? Yeah.
I think there's a few different aspects to balancing wealth. I think one is obviously having a wealth tax, so continuing to tax at a higher rate people that are at the highest echelons of wealth. I think another aspect of it is obviously continuing to increase the minimum wage. I think that's an area that we've seen the government do a lot, but I think recognizing just how expensive it is to live in this country, raising that minimum bar to a higher bar, I think would really help. I think another aspect would be whether it's through regulation, whether it's through public shaming, but having some type of control mechanism on how much the lowest person in a company can earn relative to the highest person in the company, because we continue to see a gap between C-suite and the person who is doing admin, or the person who's cleaning the building, and we need to close this gap, because the person who's doing the admin work, their labor is not a billion times less important than the person who's in the C-suite. So that should be reflected in the wages.
So some solutions can be bringing more jobs. We need to train people to use their both hands and give them jobs according to their capabilities. And donations can be a very big solution. And education is very important. We should try to train the children from the day they are born. Finish probably in the world, try to finish the child labor. Also, guys, a very important thing. Politically, choose a better leaders, and government should start giving more loans for the entrepreneurs and for the low interest rates. Bring more investors from the different countries who can start probably building factories here. Empower women and a girl. Prevent child marriages, that's a global issue. Basic health care supposed to be in all provinces in Canada and everywhere, globally, everywhere in all the countries. There are too many taxes for the Canadian. Each Canadian has to pay so much, and that's why we see so many Canadians, they are leaving the country. So we should do something for this issue. And that's all for now. And I'm gonna say thanks to my guests. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks for having us.
And I think it was a nice, informative talk for today.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
I hope so. I'm gonna see you guys again in some other episode.
Looking forward
Thank you.
to it.
I'm looking forward.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ibrahim. Thank you,
Thank you so
Yameena.
much. Thank you.
And guys, I'll see you in my next episode. Allah Hafiz.